Hey everybody, welcome back to Conquest 2.0, and I'm really excited to be making this video because I can finally share everything that you guys have probably already seen regarding Conquest, the Last Argument of Kings 2.0. The rules update came out on Monday, and I really wanted to make a video on Monday. I just didn't have time to cover all the rules in the main rulebook changing, but thankfully a lot of other good channels and podcasts out there have already covered it, so you can just go check out, like 2 Plus Stuff Gaming is really good. They did a video, and then Vanguard Garage Gaming podcast did a really good episode that released today that covers all the rules. If you want a comprehensive list of everything that changes in a really well broken out way, go listen to the Vanguard Garage Gaming podcast. So I'm not going to do a video to cover all the different rule changes because they've already done it. I will cover, now that the army list actually dropped today, is all the different armies and how the rules changes affect them, and even how the army rule changes that happen in the army rosters will affect the game. And this video is going to start out with the 100 Kingdoms. That's the faction I've been playing. If you've been listening to the channel at all, you know I've taken that to our last couple events here in Maryland at Titan Games, and I can plan to continue to take them. And our next tournament is February 25th. And I'm really excited, even more excited than I was before, to play in that event with these 2.0 rules changes. And it doesn't change up my list a ton. It changes up definitely the way I build my characters, and you'll see more as we go in the video of how characters are going to be changing in the 100 Kingdoms. But it really didn't change up the units I'm going to take, but it definitely will change my tactics on the table and how I'm going to use those units, which I'm excited about. Before we get into actual 100 Kingdoms specific stuff, I do want to cover some of the biggest changes in the 2.0 rules. That's definitely going to affect everyone, but it'll make sense as we talk about the 100 Kingdoms changes why these rules are so massive a change, especially for this faction. So the reinforcement rule change is probably the second biggest change in the 2.0 rules update. Before, you would have a roll for each unit that you would have to see if they would come in. So on turn 1, just 4 and under, lights could come in, then mediums turn 2, and so on. Now, you don't have to roll for all of them. You get to pick one unit that automatically arrives, and that unit, you don't add a dice to the pool, that you just pick that unit, and on turn 1 you can just pick lights, turn 2 you can pick light or a medium, and turn 3 you could pick a light, medium, or heavy unit that can automatically come onto the board. So what this does is really changes up all the factions' army building options, I feel like. Before, in 100 Kingdoms specifically, I took a big block of Steel Legion, which are a heavy, with an Imperial Officer, and that Imperial Officer had to, like, I didn't run him any other way, take Tactical 3 to get the flank, and the super fast movement onto the board to make sure they automatically came on the board on turn 3, because I don't want to play a game where my heavy unit, my only heavy unit in my list actually, might not show up till turn 5 and not contribute to the game. They could be, outmaneuvered because they're just foot infantry. The game could be, not decided usually by turn 5 in a Conquest game, but there might not be a space for them to come in where it's going to affect the score of the game. So now I can still throw that Steel Legion, big block of 6 Steel Legion in my list, and know, guaranteed that they're going to come on by turn 3 without paying the points for that Tactical 3 Imperial Officer to put in there. Now the Imperial Officer is good, he's still very good, and we'll go over him specifically in a couple minutes, but that's just points that can go somewhere else in my list. And a lot of other armies in the game, Spires for example with Abominations, can now look at other ways to incorporate those points in our list and take at least one heavy unit and know that's coming in by turn 3. A second big change, especially for 100 Kingdoms, is going to be the shooting. There's no more getting half shots if your target is over half of your range away. You just now get the number of shots per stand that you're going to add up. And things like mercenary crossbowmen, for example, now have 3 shots per stand. And so it'll be a total of, say you take 3 stands, 9 shots. Before, if you were shooting at something over half your distance away, over 10 inches away for them, you were just getting 7 shots. So that's a lot of shots throughout the game, but you have to also incorporate that a lot of the ranges, and their range went down from 18 or to 18 from 20. So if that was all that would change, I would say shooting got weaker. But if you're within half range now, and remembering that the ranges typically went down, you're going to get +1 to their number of shots, the barrage characteristic. So then you're shooting again at that 12 full shots if they're in half range. And the last biggest change, and this is a change that's going to basically completely change how you play the game. It's going to change how scoring works. It's going to change how units are taken off the table and how you can effectively deal with units on the table by maybe not killing them, but just by breaking them. So broken used to just make it so your character couldn't refuse a duel and minusing 2 for any charge rolls. So a lot of times, my big men-at-arms blocks, for example, I'd lose 3 stands of men-at-arms, and they would go down to half strength, and they'd be broken. But those men-at-arms are never going to charge anything again in the game once they're engaged. I don't care about that. If there's not a character in there, I sure don't care that the character can't refuse a duel. I'm going to read it right from the rulebook because it's a lot of things that broken units can't do. So first, they use their unmodified resolve characteristic. So if a character is in that unit boosting the resolve, that broken unit can only use their resolve. So for men-at-arms, I'm using resolve of 2 as opposed to higher resolve from a character that may be in there. They can't perform a charge action, so not -2 to their charge, cannot charge. Can't be healed or have any stands restored. Their stands no longer count towards seizing objectives, that's obviously a big one. And then they can't benefit from the inspired special rule. And then also character stands in broken regiments can't refuse a duel action, but can, as their character action, remove the broken status from their regiment. When you broke a unit before, as long as the stands were around, they were holding the objectives, it wasn't that big a deal. Now broken units just don't count as holding objectives, and it's going to be a legitimate way to score those points on the table and, swing the mission back and forth. I think this is going to make for way more interesting games. Some games in Conquest, the 2 big infantry bricks would hit, at right on that objective, and then it was just a dice roll, basically, who can roll better dice, who fights better to hold that objective. Now it's who can take half of the stands away, not all, not even most. So I think it'll make for really, really more engaging games and interesting games, especially with using character actions to unbreak the units, which is going to be huge, because once your unit's broken, you're very, very heavily incentivized to make sure they're unbroken as quick as possible. So now we're going to get into the actual 100 Kingdoms changes, and I just went right to the Army Builder. As you can see, the Army Builder was also updated, and they did a great job. The last time the Army Builder was updated, it took a long, long time to get everything in there. As far as I can tell, everything that was updated for 2.0 is in there now, and it's good to go and ready to use. So we'll start with the Chapter Mage, and the biggest change with her is all of her spells, as you can see, are now listed as free. You still pick one of the schools of magic, so you don't get water, fire, earth, and air all together. But if you pick the school of water, she just, for her 80 points, now gets Nunez, Tears, and Call Fog. Then we're going to move on to the Imperial Officer. Oh, it opens 2 units at the same time. I did not know the Army Builder did that. So if anybody out there was wondering, you can open 2 units at the same time in the Army Builder. I'm going to hit this X down here to get rid of it, and we'll look at the Imperial Officer. So he gets all of his battlefield drills for free. He can select, not all of them, he can select up to 2 of them for no additional cost. And then the unit he's attached to can resolve 2 draw events during its activation. Usually units can just resolve 1 draw event. And I'm sure they'll change the name of these to what they actually are. Drill 1, Drill 2, Drill 3. So you actually hit the little eye symbol to see what they actually are right now. And Drill 1 is just giving the unit Bastion. Giving unit Bastion for free, pretty good, pretty self-explanatory. Drill 2 is going to give a unit Double Time, and Double Time is one of the draw events, and some of the special rules and draw events change with 2.0. The Vanguard Garage Gaming Podcast goes over a lot of them at the end of their episode, so just check them out. I'm not going to list them all here, but Double Time was one I took a lot from the Imperial Officer to bring in Steel Legion very fast. But it actually changed to this regiment performs 2 march actions during its activation. You can take a free additional march action. So you'll notice it no longer requires you to draw the character card and then flip the unit and then this draw event can't be done coming in from reinforcements like it could before. So basically double time just lets you take 3 march actions in a row if the unit was already on the table. And then fire in advance is your next one. And if they take a volley action as their second action, they get a free additional march action. And last one is murderous volley. And murderous volley I think is going to be pretty interesting because of how much better shooting got at close range. And then this just gives you until the end of the round. If you perform a take aim action and you shoot anybody within 12, you're going to cause morale tests. So they're going to take those resolve tests on your shooting. Now this does require you to take both of your actions because you're going to have to take aim, so you're not going to be able to move closer and do it. But if somebody gets close enough to your shooting units, this could be really, really effective. And it's just one you can pick for free. Next we'll take a look at a character that I took as my Warlord a ton in the Mounted Noble Lord. And as you can see here, the Speed of Horse was why I took him a bunch of times as my Warlord in the past. And that's changed a little bit with everyone getting impact attacks built into their special rules. And it's changed to, while this character stand is on the battlefield, all Household Knight regiments gain the impact +1 special rule, and they reroll to failed hit rolls of 6 when resolving their impact attacks. So if we go down to the Household Knights, we can see that they have, this double unit thing now is paying off. They have impact 3, and so they'll go up to impact 4, and brutal impact 1, so they're going to subtract the defense of 1 to their target. So each stand of Household Knights in the unit now gets 4 impact attacks on the charge at that cleave 1 basically. And it doesn't matter if the Knights are, making supporting attacks or what, they get that full impact number for their special rule no matter where they are in the unit, which is pretty good. Unfortunately, I think this is a little worse than the Speed of Horse was before, but I still think it's good. I'll just have to see, because they used to have brutal impact 2, and I'm just not sure if it'll be as good and that you'll see everyone take a ton of Household Knights still in the future in 2.0, but time will tell. And another thing that changed with both Noble Lords, I pulled up the Infantry Noble Lord here, is they get one of their weapon arts now for free just for the cost of the unit, which is pretty cool. And the weapon arts have changed. Unfortunately, there's no more Cleave 2 Noble Lord, which is what everybody takes or took before. It's just Cleave 1 for Weapon Master, which I still think is very good. And Relentless, they get Flurry, which is reroll their missed hits on a clash or a duel, which is not bad. Powerful Physique is +1 to their wounds characteristic. I don't think you'll ever take this one. And Duelist is they get the Parry special rule, which is all hit rolls of 1. Have to reroll those dice. Again, I don't think you that one. It's really in between Relentless and Weapons Master, and I'll probably just take the Weapons Master, especially on a Mounted Noble Lord, who once the Knights get stuck in, they lack that cleave, and it's good to have at least something with cleave in the unit. And both of these units can also take Masteries, Tactical, and Combat, and a lot of these has changed as well. And I'll just go over them real quick. Right here you can see they cost the points. They are listed over there on the right side, and some of them require you to be in certain tiers of Tactical or Combat. And Art of War is once per round whilst the character standing on the battlefield. You can forgo your draw command card step and pass play to your opponent. So you can just once per round say, nope, you're going, draw your card, and activate a unit so I can see what you're doing. That's pretty expensive for 30 points on top of 3 tiers in Tactical. I don't know if I would ever actually do that, but I'm sure someone smarter than me can figure out a way to trick their opponents into making bad choices with that. So then there's the Rally to Me, which basically lets you withdraw for free in succeeding in your resolve test. Eccentric Fighting Style, you get +2 to your attacks characteristics, and you reroll your failed hit rolls, but also your successful defense rolls, which I kind of like this actually, but you need Tactical 1 and this, so that makes it pretty expensive. Long Lineage, the character stand can purchase 1 additional character upgrade. That's pretty good if you want to take the Mountain Noble Lord with Armor Dominion and like the Lorien Lance, because the Armor Dominion is still in there and it's still, I think, a auto take for the Mountain Noble Lord. Then we're going into the combat. Exposed weakness. During the dual action, enemy character stands cannot ignore or reduce the number of hits suffered from this character stand. I think that's pretty good. Marksmanship, you just give a character +2 barrage. So if you have a Imperial Officer that's inside of maybe Mercenary Crossbowman or something, that he'll actually get to make some shooting attacks, which would be cool. Disorienting Strikes, I really like for 10 points, just gives your opponent -1 clash in a dual action against you, which a Woodroom player I was playing a few weeks ago had this, and actually it was pretty annoying because my Imperial Officer was hitting on ones. And Overkill, for any dual action extra wounds that you cause, the regiment has to take a morale test if they have been wounded. And I think this actually might see some play because dueling is going to be a huge part of the game now with how just devastating being broken is. So if you refuse the duel, your unit is broken and can do basically nothing. And you don't want to do that now. You don't want to refuse duels because you're going to cost yourself actions in the future by having to rally the unit. Okay, just some of the actual regiments that got some interesting changes. And I'm sure I've missed some of them. I probably just haven't even looked at some of the units that I don't own or aren't released yet. But Steel Legion is a regiment that I take in almost every game. And they've gained 2 special rules, which is cool. In Bravery, they just ignore the Fearsome and Terrifying rule. And then, in addition, at the start of the regiment's activation, after resolving any draw events, they remove the broken status. That's awesome. So they can't be broken and ignore Terrifying, and that is great news when I'm fighting the Fallen Divinity, because that Terrifying kills so many. They keep their Cleave too, and they also get Oblivious, so they only take the 1 wound for every 2 failed morale tests running up. So this unit, not only does it hit like a truck, it's defense 3, you can put an Imperial Officer in here to give him Bastion to make him defense 4, and they're Oblivious, and they can't be broken, and they ignore Terrifying. Amazing. I love it. And here's an example of a ranged unit. This one makes me a little sad. The Militia Bowmen are still 75 points, but now you can see that each stand gets a barrage of 3, but the range has gone down to 16 inches, down from 24 inches. And Militia Bowmen are a great chaff unit, a great screen, but I really did love just having them shoot 24 inches away and peppering things with their volley of 1. It's just now that they're probably just going to get to shoot way less during a game because when anything touches them, they die. But for 75 points, you don't have a better chaff unit in 100 Kingdoms. And then you compare the Militia Bowmen to the Longbowmen here, which is actually a great range unit. They keep range 24. They had range 30 before, actually. I'm sorry. So they lost 6 inches of range, but 24 inches is really far range in Conquest 2.0. They get the barrage 3, so they're going to get 9 shots from the 3 stands with arcing fire and armor piercing 1. I think you're definitely going to see some Longbowmen on the table if you're playing 100 Kingdoms. And I'm a little sad that I built my Hunter Cadre instead of Longbowmen from the dual kit box that I got the other day. In the Hunter Cadre, it's not all bad. They're still 155 points. What were they 165 before? They're still close to the same amount of points, we're going to say. Their range has gone down to 18 inches from 20, getting the barrage 3, keeping the armor piercing, keeping Fiend Hunter, but Fiend Hunter has changed to now affect brutes and monsters, so you're rerolling all failed hits to a ton more units out there. Bone Golems, Brute Drones, Warbred, things that are in a lot of people's lists that Hunter Cadre weren't, specialized against before. They just got a whole new lease on life. I'm definitely going to throw some Hunter Cadre in my list until I get some Longbowmen built up as a ranged unit, because they're also really good in close combat as well with that Cleave 1 and Clash at 3. It'll be very interesting to see how they perform on the table. For the 2.0 overview of the 100 Kingdoms army, the next video I'm going to do is going to cover the Spires, which is my second army I'm toying around with now. I've mainly just played 100 Kingdoms. I'll probably now, because the new rules have come out, I'll continue to play 100 Kingdoms, but I was going to switch over to my Spires. But they have some really awesome changes as well that are really interesting. So overall, I think 100 Kingdoms got, the shooting got a little less range to it, which kind of hurts 100 Kingdoms. But there are some really interesting builds you can do with shooting with those longbowmen, especially in Hunter Cadre. Now being effective against brutes and monsters is really cool. And the Imperial Officer getting the 2 free battlefield drills and being able to resolve 2 draw events for the unit is going to make him like a little Swiss Army knife that can go into different units, and you'll just be able to play him in all kinds of things like Steel Legion or Men at Arms, or who knows where he can go in shooting units to do murderous volley. So it'd be cool to experiment with that as well. But then it is kind of tempered by that downside of, I think speed of horse is a little worse, but that'll just let you build into all that other cool stuff I just talked about. So thank you all for listening out there, and I would really appreciate it if you liked the video, if you could throw me a like and a subscribe to the channel. The channel's been growing super fast, and that is definitely because Conquest, I think, is growing super fast, and Bellum's really hitting their stride with how well they're marketing the game and doing the rules updates and providing it for free on their website. And the changes that they're making don't seem to be coming like some other game systems. The changes seem like they just come out of nowhere. They happen all the time, and they come out of nowhere, and you're like, why in the world would you do this? The changes that Bellum is making to Conquest seem like, even if they're like speed of horse nerfs that I took like 100 Kingdoms, like, okay, I can see why you did that. That makes sense. And I can see why, you changed shooting and made broken super, super bad for units in the game. You want it to mean something. All these changes make sense, and I think it's going to make for a great game. And I also am an affiliate with Frontline Gaming, who just got a ton more Conquest stuff on their web store. I have an affiliate link up in the top of my YouTube channel in the description of this video as well. If you need any Conquest models, if you're trying to get into city-states, or you're just trying to start a new army, or you're like me and you're addicted to wargaming, you're going to buy all the stuff, think about using that link, and it really helps out the channel and helps me out, and I appreciate it.